Welcome back. Well, today marks exactly 10 years since President Trump's infamous trip down the Golden Escalator at Trump Tower on June 16, 2015, where he announced his intention to run for the country's highest office. Joining me now is Fox News contributor, former senior counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway. Kellyanne, great to see you. Thanks so much for being here. Wow, it's been a decade. You were a huge part of his campaign and leading that campaign in the first administration. What do you think is the biggest change that has happened over this last decade, Kellyanne?
It's such a great question. I wouldn't know even where to begin, but I'd say the biggest change is that America First policies mean that we put American citizens, American industry, American workers, American sovereignty, security, above everything else. That doesn't mean America alone, but I think even as the president heads to G7 on this historic 10-year anniversary, we see what a change America's standing in the world is. Maria, look what's happening in Iran. It's Donald Trump who had that maximum pressure campaign that was working. Iran was starving to do deals when he was in his first term. Biden and Harris get in there. Within 2 weeks, they delist the Houthis as terrorists, and they stockpile all this cash to go do the October 7th massacres. So I think on the world stage, it's that other countries that were taking advantage of us, whether it's through their NATO dues and defense spending, whether it's through trade imbalances, whether it's through the fact that our military still has a huge presence in their countries. America is back and clearly a world superpower. I think domestically, it's that this president has stood in the breach. What did he say 10 years ago, Maria? He said to international derision and rejection at the time, we need border security and illegal immigrants out. Maria, what I'm most struck by in these first 5 months of his presidency in the second term and his 10-year arc of leadership is that in these first 5 months, about 1.3 million American workers have re-entered the workforce. Under Biden, it was about 1.2 million foreign-born workers. And guess what's happened, Maria?
Wow.
The wages have been raised. To attract more Americans to the workforce, these employers have had to raise the wages. One last thing President Trump has effected. I call it the democratization of information. Because he has cut out the middleman and really rendered the mainstream media all but meaningless and useless and helpless, he communicates with us directly. He has set up this expectation among we the people that the government is more transparent and truthful. It's a government that tells us at every turn what a president of the United States is thinking. Each of us receives an instant free of charge communication from the free world's leader and our commander-in-chief. This is remarkable. I think that is one of the biggest changes possible, is how forward-facing he is, how much he uses technology and instant communication with all of us.
Yeah, it's all right and spot on in terms of what has happened in the last decade. And he broke such a logjam in Washington of elites basically telling us the way to do things and the narrative by just putting the people first, America first, and pushing the idea that we are going to have private enterprise running this economy and not government. You mentioned Israel, a survey conducted by the Ronald Reagan Institute done 2 weeks before Israel struck Iran's nuclear facilities revealed nearly half of Americans back Israeli airstrikes on Iran. If negotiations between the U.S. and Tehran failed, the poll also showed a partisan divide between Republicans and Democrats. 6 in 10 Republicans said that they support airstrikes, but just 32% of Democrats said the same, Kellyanne. You have to look at this strike and these strikes from Israel as not just taming a terrible bad actor in Iran, but helping the world in terms of removing that threat that Iran is to the world, not just the United States and Israel.
That's right. To all freedom-loving people everywhere. Maria, again, the maximum pressure campaign from Trump 1 was remarkable. It worked. We starved Iran of resources. We kept them from becoming a nuclear-capable country, which is really the whole ball game here. I think the most remarkable game of telephone from this weekend was Putin calling President Trump to wish him happy birthday and getting the earful that then Putin passed on to the supreme leader and said to Iran, as Putin evacuated tweeted his own Russian embassy there in Tehran saying, hey, you better get your act together. You better move toward negotiations a little bit more quickly. That's not a threat from President Trump. I think President Trump has played this perfectly. He basically has allowed Israel to defend itself, what it wishes to do, and it's been doing it masterfully and surgically, not just over the last 4 days, Maria, but for a while now, through intelligence, through military. They've been dismantling the Iran nuclear capability. But I think President Trump has left open the door to assist Iran, and if Iran touches a hair on the head of any American, President Trump has made very clear that it's the likes of what they've never seen. He said that to Kim Jong-un. I was in the room in Bedminster in July of 2017 when he said that, when he was asked about Kim Jong-un and his nuclear capabilities. And the media, oh my God, one of the dopes there even wrote a book called that, the likes of which they'll never see. But the president is serious. But what did he do? He tries to broker the peace everywhere he can. And if I was Putin, I would listen to President Trump talk about Iran and Israel, Iran needing to negotiate quickly, and I would do the same with Ukraine.
Well, by the way, he also made a veiled, not threat, but a veiled comment about it at the Army parade on Sunday. Saturday night, rather, by, talking about how strong our troops are, but also saying if you mess with our troops, they will come for you and they will take you down. I mean, he didn't get into, the threat of Iran hitting our troops, but he made the point clear. I want to get your take on what the Democrats are saying throughout this whole time. I spoke with Senator Ted Cruz yesterday, and he had an interesting take on funding Iran. Watch this.
Iran would not be in this position if Joe Biden and the Democrats had not spent 4 years flooding over $100 billion into Iran. In a very real sense, Joe Biden and the Democrats funded Iran's terrorism efforts and funded their nuclear efforts. And number two, I stand unequivocally with President Trump. President Trump has said Iran will not get a nuclear weapon, and we will do whatever is necessary. And that means we stand unequivocally with the state of Israel. That is where America is. It is where I am. And it's the right place to be for the interest of the United States of America.
I mean, not only don't they have solutions to any of the issues important to the American people, but they don't know where to go. And they've actually given President Trump an even bigger problem to fix with this funding of the Iranians. And add Barack Obama to that list, Kellyanne.
Oh, that's right. Look, a lot of folks I talked to, and a lot of folks I talked to from the Middle East say the whole play for the Muslim Brotherhood and putting us into the JCPOA nonsense, just trying to mollify our enemies, frankly, and not stopping them from being nuclear capable. Maria, 12 years now of Obama-Biden has really set us back in this regard. And let me just put Kamala Harris into the mix. We have to hear about the first female vice president. Okay. And then her administration went and funded the Houthis and Hamas, who then raped and murdered women, broke their pelvises, put babies in ovens. And I don't want anybody to forget it, Maria. Then we see the anti-Semitism, which basically is also, I'm sure, we're going to see some pro-Iranian flags. The same idiots burning American flags and waving Mexican flags and roiling our campuses with raw rank anti-Semitism. They're about a minute away from waving Iranian flags, I'm sure. They're just fools. And why is this important? Because it's not just on our college campuses with a bunch of 19-year-olds who probably don't know any better. It's in our halls of Congress. 31 Democrats, I know your names, 31 Democrats voted against a resolution on October 18th, 2023, 11 short days after the October 7 massacre. They voted against a resolution to condemn Hamas and Houthis as terrorists. So Ted Cruz is right. And one last thing, I think the reason that so many Republicans support these airstrikes, even before they happen, Maria, is because of something that President Trump has done in the last decade also. He has transformed the Republican Party and the conservative movement into the party of the worker. And folks know you want the wars over there, not here. You don't want our young men to go over there fighting for other regimes. We want, and what President Trump has done is he's transformed this. The Obama coalition from 2012 is Trump country 2024. That migration of working Americans of all races, of both genders, of all age groups, that showed up in the polls on Election Day, but it continues foremost in this blueprint for governing. And
Yeah.
if we think that American workers don't care about what's happening abroad, they very much care about it.
Oh, yeah.
Because they know it affects our sovereignty, our security, our everyday affordability.
Kellyanne, real quick before you go, because you're so smart on strategy, did you hear what AOC said about Andrew Cuomo? We only have a couple of seconds here. But she's angry that Cuomo is likely going to win the New York mayoral contest and use that as a stepping stone to run for president. Your reaction?
Yeah, I think AOC now stands for angry on cue. I think she's probably just jealous because she wants to be president of the United States herself because she's famous for being famous. I looked this up recently. My team looked this up for me, Maria. I don't think she's passed a single bill of note. I think she renamed a couple of post offices. Who doesn't? So she actually has very little to show for her following her meteoric rise. As Nancy Pelosi said, a glass of water could have won. But I think she's jealous, and she wants the Democratic Party to go young. The young went for Trump. So she's kind of an ageist now. She uses Bernie Sanders on those private planes to give her a little bit of backing. But she's upset her party's not socialist. She's upset that you may have a reasonable, moderate Democratic mayor of New York City. If Andrew Cuomo's smart, if he wins, he'll work with President Trump. Somewhat the way Muriel Bowser here in Washington, D.C. is. You got to work with this president to reform these cities. He's willing to do it. So I hope that New York elects a mayor who's willing to do that with him.
Kellyanne, good to see you. Thank
Angry
you.
on cue, AOC. Good to see you. Take care.
Kellyanne Conway, thank you. We'll be right back. Stay with us.